We'll have the invocation by Ken and the pledge led by Mike.
Our Father in heaven, we are grateful as a community to join the council meeting tonight. We are grateful for the blessings that we enjoy living in this community and being part of this great nation. We are thankful for the moisture that we have received for our needs. We are grateful for all the city staff that serves and for the council. We are grateful for the citizens of this community that make it a great place to live. We ask thee this night, Father, to bless us with thy spirit, that we will be able to make decisions that are proper and that are right for the city, that we will be able to have the power of discernment and choose those things that will help us move forward. We are grateful for all those that serve and help us, and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No. All right. We will now move on to our agenda order approval. Are there any items the council would like changed? And if not, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda as outlined.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Please.
Aye.
Aye. Yes.
Okay. We'll go to council business.
So I just talked about a couple. I was at the water meetings, water user conferences. Terry was down there yesterday. I saw her, and I went down today. They did the water outlook for the state. It's extremely good. We're very, very grateful for the moisture. Our snowpacks are looking awesome. A couple more water issues. We're getting some awesome recharge. The Smith pit is almost clear full, almost to overflow into the county pit. So we can get some more recharge in that pit, which was increased in size last year when the county crushed quite a bit of gravel. Any excess water that's going down the stream from the Smith pit is going into the western pit, and it's looking good. And I was talking to Brent Hunter today. He thinks we'll have water probably through the end of May, at least. It's a lot cooler this year than it was if you remember in 17, it came down really fast, and this year should be a lot more controlled, which is great. The gravel pit out to Quichipaw Creek is, I applied for a stream alteration permit with the Army Corps of Engineers in the state of Utah. That should be approved in a couple of weeks. We also got a right of entry permit approved by SITLA to cross. We're going to not go down that property line. We're going to come down a different way, an older channel that's going to work probably a little better. And so probably within a few weeks, we can start putting water in that pit. And then we also met this week with the Bureau of Reclamation. There was 4 of them going to the water conference in St. George, and they agreed to stop and look at a project out to Quichipaw. This reservoir we've thought about building. It's a 35 to 40 acre reservoir to catch the high flows that we can't recharge before it goes into the lake. We capture those high flows, drop the sediment, and then trickle that water down to our recharge system that's already in place over time. And we don't know how it'll work. We think it'll be great, but some years you might get a lot of water, some years you might not get any. But that's something we've hired a grant writer out of Paraguna, Nancy Dalton. That's a really good grant writer, and she's going to apply for a water-wise grant. She's going to get it submitted within 9 days, and 8 days now, I guess. And so we're going to apply for some money. They'll do up to $750,000, but we have to get matching funds from local, state, or other entities, DWR or whatever. And so we're working on that. So we continue to work on water in the valley.
Great. Thank you. Are there other council comments? Nope. Yes.
You're going to get to it, but today is SBDC Day in the country, and this week is Small Business Week nationally, and we'll recognize here in a minute
yes,
the mover and shaker of the SBDC.
Anachronisms for those that don't know what that might be.
Small Business Development Center.
Yes. All right. Is there anything else? Okay, then we'll move to that. So we have this wonderful proclamation. It says, whereas the United States Congress created the Federal Small Business Development Center, SBDC's program to provide training and technical assistance for entrepreneurs and small businesses across the United States. And whereas the SBDCs are the most comprehensive small business assistance network in the nation and provide free client business advising and low-cost training on important small business topics. And whereas the SBDC clients open, manage, and grow their businesses, provide job creation and employment, offer goods and services to clients, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And whereas Congress authorized the creation of the American Small Business Development Center National Association to help represent the federal SBDC networks in cooperation with the U.S. Small Business Administration, and has designated March 20th, 2019 as National SBDC Day. Whereas the Cedar City SBDC and the Utah SBDC networks have worked tirelessly to foster and grow small businesses in our community and throughout the state. And whereas, as part of this effort to promote small businesses in Cedar City, the SBDC has recognized Everything Exterior as Cedar City's Small Business of the Year. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Miley L. Wilson Edwards, Mayor of Cedar City, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, March 20th, 2019 as SBDC Day in Cedar City, Utah. So, Jody, if you want to come up. And I'll just be brief and then we'll give this to you first off. Okay. Okay. Yeah, come up. Sorry. You have to come over here.
Okay. I was going to.
Gotta get in the photo there.
Do you guys want to be in a picture?
Yeah, you guys. Yeah,
You kind
please.
of have to be.
You got those cool shirts on. You better.
Yeah.
Don't you always want to carry it here in the background?
All right, there we go.
Photo bomb.
I know. I pretend to put my head between your shoulders.
All right. But make sure you state your name.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Joni Anderson. I'm the Assistant Director of the Cedar City Small Business Development Center. And on this National SBDC Day, we'd like to recognize Brent Williams and Jalen Christensen as our Small Business of the Year. Brent started the business in 2012 when he was a student at SUU trying to pursue a degree in finance, right? It was a summer job. He started with 2 people and 1 truck, and now the business has grown into a partnership with 15 employees and 4 trucks. And we would just like to recognize Everything Exterior for their contribution to the economy in Cedar City.
Yeah, I'd like to hear a little bit about the business.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about the business.
But you still have to state your name.
Brent Williams. So Everything Exterior does landscape maintenance, not installs, commercial or residential, window cleaning, and Christmas lights.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thanks, Mayor.
Yes. Okay. We will now move on to staff comments.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. Darren Adams with the Police Department. I'm here tonight representing the EAC to award our March Employee of the Month, and would ask if Lieutenant Roden would come join me. He's so excited about this. I'm just going to read from the nomination here. It says that Lieutenant Jimmy Roden is currently serving was the Patrol Division Commander. However, with the recent retirement of Keith Millett, he has taken on extra duties to ensure both the Patrol and Operations Division function effectively. In addition to his Patrol Division oversight duties, he ensures the fleet is managed and maintained, equipment and uniforms are ordered, and each officer is equipped with the tools they need to complete their jobs. He works extremely hard, often staying much later than necessary to ensure each task is completed and that those within his oversight are provided the items, the attention, and the leadership that they need and deserve. I count on Lieutenant Roden immensely. He is an intelligent and caring individual with great foresight and innovation. He worked closely with patrol to change the patrol shift structure, which increased morale among patrol officers. This approach also contributed to a decrease in overtime, which positively affected our budget. He possesses extraordinary characteristics that make him uniquely qualified to do a remarkable job and to enhance and improve the patrol division and the department. He's also an exemplary follower, and I never have to worry or doubt his capacity or ability to complete assigned tasks or to labor tirelessly on behalf of the city and the residents we serve. He and I work very closely together, as you can imagine, and I count on him immensely. In my opinion, he would probably disagree. He's near perfect, and I mean that in everything that he does. He is the consummate professional, and the city is so lucky to have him and to have him in this position and to represent the police department of the city. Also want to just publicly thank his sweet wife, Shalene, who, we can't be who we are without our spouses, and she has put up with a lot, I know, the last couple of months as this has affected, I'm sure, their home life with him staying late. And I want to publicly express my gratitude from the bottom of my heart for her support. So thank you. And he may want to say a few words. I don't know.
Oh, you have to go. Yeah, that's good shaking
You're not
hands.
gonna say
Yeah, you guys come up here. My wife.
yes.
Okay, it's your turn.
So the city hired a new employee this week. His name is Todd Hegman. Todd, come on up to the microphone, would you? Todd is going to be our events director. He has a long career behind him already in private sector, focused on events and hospitality. And if you could please introduce yourself and tell him a little more about who you are and say hi.
You have to state your name first.
Yes. Name is Todd Hegman. Thank you very much for this opportunity to work for Cedar City. As Paula mentioned, I've got a history of Cedar City. I was the technical director, actually the longest running employee for the Tour of Utah. So back in the day, probably met a few of you when Steve Miller and I hopped in a car and decided to go down south and knock on some doors to see what towns would welcome a little bike race. And so we appreciate all of the efforts of the town, and I've gotten to know a lot of you personally and professionally beyond that. And when the opportunity came up, got a nice message from my friend Danny here about an opportunity here in Cedar City, and I was happy enough to win the position. So I'm really looking forward. I've had some great conversations with the mayor and staff about the vision of Cedar City, and I'm really looking forward, and I hope I can live up to the expectations.
Todd, I hope you have a long career in public service now in Cedar City.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So one more item to bring up from staff comments. As we emailed the council a few weeks ago, we received our healthcare renewals. They're rather not high, or they are high. Sorry.
Yeah.
They're high. So we've done some price shopping. We want to bring an item to you next week to work with a broker, not for a complete range of broker services, but for two specific things. One is to go over our current vendor's underwriting and try to work with our current vendor and their underwriters to see if we can find a more reasonable renewal rate. And if that doesn't work, to rebid the health insurance package. So just to keep it in the flow of our regular business, I wanted to bring it up tonight and then have it before you guys next week, if that's okay with y'all.
Will we have some information prior to the meeting?
Yes. You will have way more information than I just gave you.
So,
Okay.
Paul, I have a question. So, I mean, our city probably isn't big enough to ever self-insure, right? With health insurance. I mean, and along with that question, you know how we co-op, I guess is the term, with other cities with our insurance. Can we ever do that on a health?
For liability insurance purposes, we kind of co-op through
Right,
IRMA
for
with
that,
other
but
cities.
for healthcare, has that ever been explored? Could we ever do something like that with, or is that not possible?
I think anything's possible, but I haven't heard of that kind of an operation as of yet. But, you know, Irma didn't exist before a bunch of cities threw up their hands and invented it.
That may be something we want to explore.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
Well, thank you.
Are there any other staff comments? No. We've spent the past 3 days, all day, in budget meetings. We get to meet with you guys all tomorrow.
Yahoo!
So the staff at this point is probably sick of talking. So we will now move on to the public agenda with public comments. If there is anyone here that would like to address the council, now is your opportunity.
You don't want to tell Todd about not sitting in your chair when he comes to council meeting or anything?
I thought about it.
Okay.
It's really weird to have you over there. It's throwing me off. You can move back to your normal chair now. All right, we'll move to our business agenda with our public portion with item number 1, consider vicinity plan for Fillers Mountain Estates PUD.
Good evening, Arlo Fossen with Go Civil Engineering. This isn't the most up-to-date map, but we can probably get by with it. The most up-to-date doesn't have all of these lots. We've got a roundabout right before the subdivision and then a master planned access road back to Main Street through this. I don't know if we've got any other ones, but I know we've had discussions about it.
Got it up here.
We could even just pull up Google Earth. It has all the streets in there.
Which one was it? I think we have the most up-to-date one in our packets.
I think we do.
Because there's the roundabout right there.
It's this road.
Right there.
that's the most-
This
one
one
we've got
or
kind of-
this one?
Hmm?
This road or this road?
This one. This one kind of dead ends.
So this was originally slated as a phase of an ashdown forest. It's going to be brought back in as a different PUD because this subdivision will increase the outlet of this one beyond the 80 lots. The city's wanting a secondary access road, which will take off at this point, follow along here, and then drop back down into this road over by Love's. This is just going to be a temporary access road, as all of this land isn't the developer's. He can't dedicate a city street.
What do you mean by temporary? What will it be, a dirt road?
It will be the cross section we have shown in there is a double chip sealed road, but it doesn't have curb, gutter, sidewalk.
That goes across Sitla land,
Correct.
and that's
Okay.
okay with them.
Right now, we've been in discussion with the city. There's some future soccer fields that will be going right here.
Maybe.
Yeah. And so we're trying to plan out where that's going to go. The city is also in an agreement to put a road in through Sitla eventually also. And so there's some coordination, some back and forth that we still need to do. And obviously if we could put in a dedicated road or the city wants to participate with that, that would be ideal. But as the developer can't dedicate a road across property he doesn't own, that's really not on the table.
So there is a note on the plat for this subdivision that says no building permits will be issued in this subdivision until that second road is in.
I was a little unclear from the planning commission, and maybe you can clarify that. At one point, they were talking about the city was going to participate in the road, and in the next paragraph, it said, no, that's the developer will do the road. So are you talking about the two different roads?
Well, there's the master plan road
Yes.
that would go through the park. We're still in discussion with the city on where they want us to put that or where they would like to see that go. The developer would rather not have to front the cost for the entire road. That makes it pretty expensive for any of those lots to be profitable. But as the city already has an agreement to eventually put a road in there, we'd just like to help.
Don't
with
we have
that.
a period of time that
We've got 10 years.
Yeah, so the city has 20
20
years
years.
to put that in, just so all parties are on the same page.
So what
pretty
about-
much we won't determine the road until we determine the use? Is that what
Yeah.
we've talked about?
There's some
So it
natural-
could,
There's that dirt road out there now. We may want to follow that area, but we may want to change it when we decide what we're going to do with the property.
So if the road you want to build is constructed and we want to follow that same path, I mean, what about utilities? Would you, or would any utilities be installed before you double chip seal that, or would that have to be torn up anyway, Kip, later?
Well, for a second access, they wouldn't need to install the utilities in it, but we would try to design the road so that there'd be minimal impact on the new asphalt. When the utilities went in, we'd put in some casings and things like that to make sure we had them there. Now the first part of the road, as Arlo said, is going to go up through the master plan to go to serve access for the soccer fields.
Yeah, right.
But then there's quite a long stretch of that road that's going to end up having to go through Sitla property and connect up in this area someplace. And that's going to be their responsibility to get that right away.
We were only responsible to take the road to the property we traded with Sitla, though, right?
Yes. Of course, unless they want to go ahead and develop before that happens, because they're going to have to put that second access in because of the 80 lot rule. So
That has to go in regardless, right? Because we'll be at the 80 lot limit, right?
yes.
So have you worked things out with Sitla?
We've been in discussion with SUU that we have to cross, and I know he has talked with Sitla. Obviously, they're okay with the road going through there with the agreement they have with the city already, but we haven't been in these last few rounds with discussions with them on where they would like it or an easement happening anytime soon, but that would be in the works, yeah.
So what's the time frame you're looking at?
The developer would like it, as soon as possible, but money's always an issue on who has to front how much and obviously the city where they would like the road to go. So we haven't finalized those details.
I guess maybe one last question back to the road again. In the planning commission minutes, it stated that this is regarding the dirt road. Said he was told that it would be paid when the developer completed his project. So completed meaning that we've got all the infrastructure in and you've got the lots ready to sell. Is that what we mean by that?
Yeah, there's still some road and infrastructure that has to get put in before that happens anyway. So yes, the majority of this is paved, has some, I don't know if it has sidewalks, but it's got some curb and gutter and it's got the sewer and water lines in there that need to be checked. And there's some work that needs to be done. But yeah, like Kit was saying, or Tyler was saying, that no building permit would be pulled until the entire project is complete.
so what would be the purpose of us approving it now, since they've already put most of those improvements in anyway? What would be the purpose of getting it approved? And I mean, that road could literally be 20 years before an agreement.
Right.
is
And so
reached,
for
so-
him to have a subdivision developed, it's going to have to get put in. We still need to have some discussion on where the city would like it to go. But there's still some city dedicated road that's going to have to go in. So just like any other subdivision, we've got to go through a vicinity plan process. We have to submit construction drawings and a final plat.
Okay, so you just want to be working it through the process and hope that there will be a resolution there.
As Paul mentioned, there's some very specific conditions that's on the on the vicinity plan that they have to comply with in order to pull a final plat on that subdivision and develop.
So do you have concerns with us moving forward?
Not with what's
with what's on there then?
Not with what's written on that vicinity plan.
Tyler, do you have any concerns with it?
No, we spoke through and worked through those notes to make sure we felt the city was protected and both parties were on the same page and what the responsibilities were before we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Harlow.
So do you want this on consent?
Sure.
All right, what?
Can I say one thing? Carter Wilkie, I just have one question, and this might be a dumb question, Arlo. I'm sure you can answer it. Has the discussion happened with Ashdown PUD to see if you can just go through their gate that they put up?
Oh, yeah.
Dead end?
Hey,
dead end?
Oh, believe me.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we're not bringing that up.
Okay, I just curious. I don't know.
Yeah,
Carter,
please
that's
sit
Wasn't
down.
around for that part.
Yeah, just stop now.
Several times.
Carter, there are no dumb questions. That was a good one to ask.
That's a good one.
That was
That's
That
several
was a dumb
discussions.
question.
It seemed kind of obvious, so
I had this.
yeah.
I had the same question, Carter. You were just braver than I.
I guess.
There's no intent to go through Bridgewater Road to access their PUD. That's why this second access road has to go
Another
Yeah,
direction.
another direction.
north. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been there, done that.
All right. So thanks for taking one for the team, Carter. All right.
Happy to do it.
Item number 2, consider no parking area on 400 South in front of the South Elementary School.
Hunter Shaheen, Iron County School District. We had approached the city had approached us at the beginning of the school year regarding the crosswalk on 400 South on the north side of South Elementary. When the city chip sealed, they covered the crosswalk, and then Kit and I had some conversations on the city didn't have any documentation on the legality of that crosswalk, of when it was put in. And to our knowledge, it was put in many years ago, and it's been maintained. But we wanted to make sure that we were compliant with all of the warrants and the requests through UDOT on to make sure that the crosswalk was legal with its location within the reduced speed zones as well. So, Kit, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that initially.
Well, with putting that crosswalk in, we're going to have, in order to make this as safe as possible as far as visibility of students using that crosswalk. And this is actually on, I think it's a separate item. We're asking to make 100 feet of no parking area on this to the east, and then on the other side of the street, on the south side of the street, making another 100-foot no parking area, so that when students come out and go on that crosswalk, the traveling public can see them.
Okay.
Have we had a problem there, Hunter, in the past with students? And
It's, as everybody knows, it's the school was built in 1960. The infrastructure is not necessarily designed to handle the amount of parents that drive their students to school anymore. It used to be everybody walked or they rode the bus, and now every parent decides they have to drive their student to school, which is understandable. And so over the last, 5 to 10 years,
well, it's not really understandable, but
well, yes, no further comment on my part, but yes, it's getting very congested there, and there's students that are crossing there, and due to the cars on the side of the road, as well as the people backed up into the street trying to get into the parking lot, it's become there's quite a bit of lack of visibility for the students.
So what will that do to all those cars? Because I drove by today at about 2:13, 2:20, and there were cars lined up all the way down 400 South, clear out almost to 700.
Well, it shouldn't. I mean, the congestion's still going to be there on the street just due to the fact that only so many can access the parking lot at one time, and so there's still going to be congestion on the road. The main issue here is making sure that cars trying to come into the parking lot, they're not fighting, a lack of visibility due to the other cars parked on the street. So, and then students, small students coming out of the elementary running the risk of somebody trying to pull forward and a kid comes between those cars that are parked on the sidewalk and having an accident.
Do we impact any homeowners there that might have parking issues?
We shouldn't. Everything should be there. We don't typically have a lot of cars that park on the north side of 400 South. It's typically closest to the school on the south side. So the extended no parking zone on the south side shouldn't affect anybody. On the north side, it's very limited. We haven't had any issues there with parking in the homes that are currently there.
Okay.
Just one thing, one key element to all this is, this has been talked about for quite a while, but there need to be a traffic study done by, a certified engineer to give us the recommendations that we needed to make this, happen as far as putting these crosswalks in. And the school district did do that, and this is according to their recommendations in the study.
So how much traffic, Hunter, uses that with the four-way intersection about 250, 300 feet to the east?
I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head that actually cross the street there, but it was significant enough and it fell within the UDOT requirements that it required a certain amount of pedestrian traffic across that within a 45-minute period, as well as a car count. And so everything fell within the UDOT standards. So
that's not painted at the other intersection, is it?
It is.
At the crosswalk, the four-way stop.
At the four-way stop is.
It is. So, okay. That's what I was trying to remember, but
the no parking's not painted currently.
Not yet.
The no parking on the street is not correct.
It's not.
I guess maybe my last question is, do we have any kind of is this a code enforcement issue, or do you have any kind of a resource officer at school or anything for the problems?
Yeah, the elementary share resource officers from the middle schools and high schools. The police department helps respond to any of those.
So they can go out and say, excuse me, you need to,
yes,
you're parking in a red zone here.
Yes. Yep. And at any time, if somebody were to park there, if it's not initiated by the school district in terms of making the phone call to a resource officer to, find out whose car is in the red zone, the public's usually pretty good to make those phone calls as well.
Okay, thank you.
So long as they don't come to my office. So. Any other questions that I can answer on that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
So this will go on the action. Item number 3, consider a vicinity plan for 1425 PUD.
Good evening, Dallas Go Civil. So this is I think this is a little out of order. This is a PUD project. Part of it is currently zoned general commercial.
Isn't that the area of town that is?
Yeah, 1425 north, just north of the hospital.
Just north of the hospital.
And so the overall is 2.17 acres, but we have this portion that is a general plan amendment and a zone change to R3.
How much acreage? How much is that? Are we looking at changing?
It's 0.69.
Okay.
And there's still about a 400-foot buffer to Main Street that's also commercial. Still. And so, yeah, so this is already R3. We're trying to complete it by getting this to be R3, and then it's going to be a 20-unit PUD.
Are these purchased homes, rentals? What are they?
They're going to be townhomes.
I guess the question I want to bring up is, if you remember a few months ago, we had a discussion with some folks in here from about 1600 North, up in that area. They were very concerned about the fact that they had purchased homes here and now somebody was looking to develop the commercial property on the other side of them. I just want to make sure that as we move forward, that everyone fully understands that that is commercial on the other side of that. And when somebody wants to put in a building there, we don't have people coming screaming at us to say, they're building a whatever right next to my home. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be full disclosure on all that at the time of that if this moves forward.
Currently, it's surrounded to the south and to the east, all by the hospital. So the hospital owns all of that.
Okay. I want to make sure.
All right. Are there any other? You look like you have a question.
Well,
so
we've got 3 separate issues here, right?
Yeah. So when we bring this before the city council next week to actually vote on it, we'll make sure we have the general land use amendment, zone change, and then the vicinity plan approval.
Okay.
To make sure they're in the proper order.
Okay.
So do you want this on action?
So this is 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah. Dallas, does this butt up against the Stonehenge project on the west?
Yes, yes. So this is a common property line with Stonehenge.
Gotcha.
And then this is hospital.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
No.
Okay, this will go on the action so it can go in the right order for next week.
Okay.
Okay, item number 4, consider an ordinance amending the general land use plan for property located 200 west, 1425 north from commercial to high density residential.
Dallas Buckner, go civil. You pull that one up, Kit. So this is a project for Mark Meisner. It's going to be Sycamore Phase 4. So it's an extension of his other Sycamore subdivisions. It's a Crossland Highway. It's currently annex transition. We just finished the annexation with Tyler this week. And so it's basically this little square right here. It's about 7 acres.
Are we on item 4 or item 6?
Yeah, this is,
Aren't we
you
on
skipped
6
it.
now?
This is the general,
Did I? Okay.
yeah, this is for that same property.
Back by the hospital. This is just the general land use amendment by the hospital.
Okay. So, all right. So it's the same as the other Burgess one. So it's converting the 0.69 acres from commercial to R3.
Yeah.
And so that's the one that those two need to take place before the vicinity plan can be approved.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there questions related to that? Okay. Then we'll put this one on the action agenda. Okay, so the next one is our zoning. So consider an ordinance changing the zone on property located at 200 west, 1425 north from general commercial to R3.
And I think we've had that discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same property.
Same issue.
Yep.
So we'll put this on the action agenda.
Yep.
Okay, now consider an ordinance amending the general land use plan for property located at 1805 North Lund Highway from low density residential to high density residential.
Yeah.
Okay,
All
now you
right,
get to
yeah.
start over.
All right. Dallas Buckner, go civil. Sorry. Okay. So this is the Sycamore.
We're getting there, Dallas.
Yep. We're going to make it. So if this is the piece right there.
Where is?
Do you want me to have a public hearing really quick on the last one before we get more kids? Okay, really quick pause.
All right.
Okay, so on the last item, we need to have the last two, the general land use and the zoning, we need to have a public hearing on those.
Okay. So
So if there's
Don't go
anyone,
anywhere.
no, don't go far. If there's anyone that would like to speak to the zone change general land use plan for the 200 west, 1425 north property, the public hearing is now open. Okay, seeing no one, we will close the public hearing. Okay, now you can come back.
Third time's the charm.
Yep. So we start all the way over and just keep going.
You can just keep.
Okay. All right. So this is the other Sycamore Trails subdivision. So now this one is currently zoned R3 and in construction for townhomes. This is the parcel right here that was annexed and is currently annexed transition. So this is the piece that we are applying for the general land use and zone change for R3.
But isn't everything else around it, isn't it zoned either lower density?
Yes. So the general plan is for R1 west of Lund Highway.
Right. Yeah, I struggle with some of this pocket zone changes we're doing. And things are set up to be one thing, and then we're just finding different places to put higher density. Well, that's one of my concerns.
Okay. And So it is pocket because it's on the other side. Mark does have a portion that's R3 across the street.
No, there's one section there by
Yep.
Sycamore Trails.
Yep. And so just like that one, it is zoned R3, but it's not the developer's intent to go max density. If you saw the planning commission meeting minutes, there's a long discussion on it, but what we have proposed right now, and we have on for sketch meeting tomorrow, actually meets R2 density, but we have a fourplex is proposed, and so that's what made us go to R3. We did do a public hearing planning commission for R2, then we did it for R3, then we did another the public notification prior to this meeting, and had no one that came out and spoke at any of those.
Right. I know it was a kind of a split vote on the planning commission during the vote. There was concern about it, similar to that.
Yep.
Anything that you want to say there? Nothing?
No, just I actually voted
Right.
for, so.
I mean, I know Lund Highway is a busy highway and it will get busier. So you don't want to have a lot of single family homes along the very, very busy highway, but I am concerned about sort of pockets of zoning going here and here and here. So I want to study this a little further, but obviously we'll take the week to look at it further and drive out and look at it again.
Okay.
So Kit, is this the master plan here? Master land use plan or?
Yeah, no, this is a zone map. I mean,
zone map.
And so this is the
And that's
piece
the property right there.
right
now.
there. Yep.
Whoa.
Keeps moving.
Okay, so this is the general plan.
Okay. Okay, and that's the existing development.
Yes, and so this
Right there.
is
That's
Sycamore
Sycamore
Trails
Trails.
phase 1, 2. This is 3 right here. This is another piece that's zoned
And they're developing across the
industrial.
street right
Yep.
now.
And then this corner right here is what we're going for R3
No
on.
question, yeah. And I think what swung the discussion, at least my opinion, at the planning commission was the fact that you wouldn't want R1s emptying out onto that very busy highway. Now you could
You can do
build it so that
setbacks
there
and-
were, yeah.
Which kind of what they've done.
cul-de-sacs
Which
and-
kind of what they've done on Sycamore Trails. There's quite a setback there off of Lund Highway before you pull into the development.
Which road is Lund Highway?
That's
I
the
don't know.
zone- that one.
Okay, that's what I thought. I gotta
Yep.
make sure.
So it's fronting Lund Highway,
That all over there is the,
Hunter Glen.
yeah.
Okay. Are there any more questions from the council? No? Then we will open the public hearing on this item if there's anyone that would like to address the council.
No?
Hi, my name is Lynn Brown, and my husband Harry, most of you probably know him, I'm the quieter one. But
That wouldn't be hard to do.
yeah, you're right. Our property is just to the north of where this development is going on. And purchased the home in 1984. I love the rural aspect of being a little bit out of town. And Sycamore Trails has been a good subdivision and has eased my concern about who owns what property, what's going in. Apparently there was going to be a gravel pit put in across the street from us about a decade ago that luckily fell through. So Harry and I are not opposed to housing, but we are concerned with what the city's plan is. Are you going to be annexing north some more? And just concerned that it not get too populated out there. Again, as Scott said, with Lund Highway being really, even though it's 50 miles an hour, the sheriff's department and police department will tell you folks drive a whole lot faster. So I just would like those things to be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. I certainly can't speak for the city, but I I do believe that that road will continue to draw greater traffic. It is planned to be a major corridor just because of the size and where it's located. And I suspect the city will grow to the north. I mean, I think I'd be lying if I told you otherwise. As the demand is there, I think it will grow to the north. But of course, how it grows and what we do with it, that's what it's all about.
Okay. So is there anyone else who would like to address the council? No? Okay, then we will close the public hearing and move this on to action. Okay, item number 7, consider an ordinance changing the zoning on property located at 1805 Northland Highway from annex transition to R3.
Dallas Buckner Go Civil. Same property. Yep. Going for R3.
Do you want to reiterate just the plan for duplexes except for the?
Sure. Yeah. So what we have planned and what we have on for the sketch meeting is it is duplexes. It's not max density by any means. Like I said, we would meet the R2, but the fourplexes that we have shown push us to do R3. As far as one of the things that came up in Planning Commission was, could you go for R2? We could, but the way that the geometry of the lot layout works, it's not as favorable for the finished product. As far as backyards, it would just push the houses closer because of the spacing on the fourplexes. But the goal is to provide, affordable housing in the form of duplexes. And then with Mark Meisner, you know what you're getting as far as quality and everything across the street. So that's why we're calling it Sycamore 4, and it's an expansion of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, we'll open a public hearing on this.
I just like to know things, okay? Carter Wilkie. When you say duplex, do you mean legal duplex or twin home? So one tax identity for both units, or each unit will have its own tax identity?
It'll be each will have their own.
Okay, so twin homes and townhomes versus. Because like when I hear fourplex, that means one owner owns all 4 units and it's one tax ID number.
No, so it will be. They'll all be individual units.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Then we will close the public hearing and move this on to our action agenda.
Kit, could you send those maps out to us so I can look closer at that?
Yeah.
The one that shows the general land use and then also the zoning. Thank you.
We have the sketch plan in too. I don't know if you want to.
Yeah.
Now that we've submitted it.
That would be nice to see.
That'd be nice to see.
That would be
Is
good
that
to see.
something that Kit, can you forward that to them as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to the staff portion with item number 8, consider a resolution amending the city's banner policy.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, staff. As you're aware, the Office of Economic Development has managed the city's Main Street banner program, the banners that go from 200 South all the way down to Coal Creek now, and those banners are used to promote the events and things that happen in the city. We've got just a couple of items that need some changes on this. The first ones are just addressing the materials and the sizes for those. We find that industry standards, we're changing the weight of a material on these banners from 14 ounce to 13 ounce just to meet more of what the industry standard is on that.
Is that because materials and things have changed and strengthened, and is that sort of the purpose there?
It is. And when this was originally put together, we had some materials that were 18, 16, and some that were down to 13, and we just kind of picked 14, but we find that the industry has gone more towards the 13 ounce strength. So you're familiar with all the windstorms that we get and how a lot of those banners get shredded. This 13 ounce is supposed to withstand that just fine.
What does that do to all the existing organizations that currently have banners?
It shouldn't do anything. Most of them are heavier.
No, but I mean, would they be grandfathered into this new thing? It's just when they have new ones made. Is that the intent?
Right, because the ones that they have right now, 13 is the minimum standard. So if they're made from a heavier material, that's still just fine. They'll be able to use those. The next one that's kind of housekeeping refers to the size of the material for the billboards on the north and south ends of town at I-15. And it's just changing the dimensions of those by a couple of inches. It works better for the installation of those. That doesn't happen very often, but it happens often enough. We just wanted to clarify that for the companies that are hired to print those. The final item with the sign ordinance, as we have more and more activities, and even though we've added more banners, there's been some competition. We want to make sure that we get representation for the events that are happening in the city, instead of it turning into an opportunity for an organization to monopolize all of the banners up and down Main Street. We want to keep our citizens and our visitors aware of the various activities that are going on. So we're asking to modify the language in this that limits the number of banners to just under half that are available to 40 at any one given time. So for example, one organization can't come in and purchase or take that space up for an entire season, for an entire period of time, and jeopardize all of those banners. The intention was never to make that a main advertising medium as much as a service to the citizens and the visitors, to let them know of the things that are going on.
What about placement? I mean, when you say you cut it in half, how do you distribute where they get to hang them, though?
Right.
Who has priority for, say, the downtown as opposed to further south or further north?
Yeah, and that's a good question. And that hasn't been much of an issue. There are those who prefer the downtown areas. There are those who prefer those areas to the north or the south because they don't have as many trees that block them. So we just kind of work that out on an individual basis. If they request 40, then we'll work with them to place them so that it makes sense for their event and for the public to view them as well. So that'll be done case by case.
Stagger them is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, we can stagger them, or we can block them, and we'll work with the organizations as they come to us to make sure that they're happy with what they're getting. Right now, the organizations will pay for the production of those banners on their own. They'll bring them to us, and then they also pay a fee to have those hung by our Parks Department. Right. So this is just allowing us to be able to accommodate more than one at a time, especially during the summer season when it's really busy.
Danny, let me ask you, has this been a problem? I'm thinking I would much rather see that there's activity and banners up on all of our brackets rather than having many of them sit empty like they do currently, and especially in the off season.
Right.
What is the problem in trying to negotiate with the various entities and say, listen, right now SUU commencement's on, and let's say they have all of them, or 90% of them, or 80% of them. And after that's over, but we have this coming in, so we're taking down 40 of your banners and we're putting up summer games, or we're putting up whatever it might be, Shakespeare Festival, whatever it is. I just question the wisdom in limiting them rather than saying we have them available if you're willing to do it, and then we have the right authority, whatever you want to call it, to say we will negotiate with you because we're putting up the Heritage Festival, or we're putting up United Way, or whatever it might happen to be.
Sure. Rather
than having empty brackets on our street.
Right. And that hasn't been a problem to this point. I don't anticipate that being a problem. The bigger problem is organizations kind of tripping over each other to get here first, because it's a first come, first served policy.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of organizations in particular that want to take all of them and not let any of the other ones up. It's part of our policy now that if the city is sponsoring an event, that we have priority and we can temporarily remove banners, and they all understand that.
Mm-hmm.
When we do get to leaner seasons, when we don't have the banners filled, we've been working with Maria Twitchell at the Tourism Bureau. We have some that they've filled in those empty spaces. A lot of those have been damaged or need to be updated. We're working with Maria on those now to fill those. But I think when it was originally written, we wanted to keep that open with the 82 available, but it has become problematic about the last 3 seasons, to where some of the events that would like to be included haven't been able to do so.
Well, it seems to me that maybe that's something we could try to negotiate. I hate to see us limited, or if we do, I'd like to find a compromise on there. I think 40 is too few for some of the larger events, such as Shakespeare Festival, Summer Games, SUU, even our Tour of Utah, things like that. And I think those things that are huge economic drivers, it's different when you have an event that is a weekend or you have a week-long event, domestic violence, whatever it might happen to be, is something that runs for longer periods of time. And I would really caution us from cutting them too low. I think 40 is too few for me.
Sure. When they were put up, we had 32 originally, and that was Center Street in the downtown. So we added those extra ones.
Right. Well, and as you know, I'm sorry, as you know, we're getting some pressure from some of the businesses over on 100 West that say, we're an historic downtown. How come we don't have banners on our poles? So in reality, we need to be adding about 8 or 9 more brackets to those poles as well, let alone what we already have.
Yeah, I think that's something we'll continue to look at. Yeah. You probably recall that the university did purchase and have us install some banners that are on the inside, just in the historic downtown portion. And with some transitions in staff over there, those are not currently being utilized the way that they were intended. So we're working on that with the university to meet those needs. With the exception of 2 organizations, we've never had anyone order more than 32 at a time. So this was the solution that we felt worked the best, because what's happening is my staff of 1, Brad, who's managing this program, has become kind of a referee on these things, and it puts him in an awkward position to try to, it just doesn't work for him to try to be the referee, to be the one in the middle saying we like you better and we don't like you as much.
But is a personnel issue the reason we're changing the policy? Because that seems kind of backwards to me.
True.
If the policy doesn't work, then we should look at it. But if it's because we have an issue with personnel, then we need to look at the personnel side of things.
Right.
I don't know. I just think
well, if the issue is the number, we could probably reconsider the number, but I do think it's really wise to limit the number to some number. The reason we chose 40 is because generally nobody's asking for more than 32. We thought that would give them a few more. They're kind of broken out. I don't have the exact numbers right now, but we have the 32 in the downtown. We have, I think, about the same number on the north end and about 26 or 28 on the south end.
Have you spoken to any of the organizations about this potential change in policy?
We have.
And how are they responding?
So far, they've been positive. I think they just want some understanding of what the expectations are.
I mean, well, on any kind of branding or marketing, you got to have an impact. If you don't have enough impact, there's no sense doing it. But of course, you can oversaturate as well. So.
Right. And I think the thing that we're looking at is once it becomes perceived as a form of advertising for an event that's being budgeted just to advertise the event, I think it oversteps the original intent of these, is just making the public aware of what's going on instead of an advertising medium. So that's the way that the approach that we've taken, and I appreciate the input, though.
Okay. Well, I've certainly dominated the conversation. Others can join in if they want.
Right. Are there any other comments, questions? No? Okay, we'll put this on the action. All right. Item number 9, consider a resolution to enter into a participation agreement with the Utah Governor's Office of Energy Development, OED, allowing the OED to offer and administer a Utah CPACE district within city limits and perform all duties described in the participation agreement.
Well
Thanks
done.
for that title.
You're welcome. And I'm sure the council is thanking me for the packet insert.
That was lovely reading.
With that.
Yeah, lovely reading.
Very entertaining.
It is.
Right.
I'm going to give you the very high level condensed version of this, and I'll try to answer questions as they come. But just to give you a little bit of background on this, this program is one that comes through the state of Utah through the Governor's Office of Energy Development. The CPACE program is a program that's been used in several states, in many states across the U.S. since 2013. Utah adopted this several years ago, and when they adopted it, what they wanted, oh, thank you, Kit. The idea and what had been adopted in several states is that the state would adopt this program and allow this finance program to happen, and the cities would administer that. It turned out that with that model, there weren't any cities in the state of Utah that had the staff or the resources to administer it. So this legislation was rewritten in 2017 to allow, which allows the Governor's Office of Energy Development to be the ones that actually administer the program. We just have to give them permission to administer it within our municipality. There's a person that I work with at the Office of Energy Development, Shauna Kwan. She introduced this to myself, to Paul and the mayor quite a while ago. And the plan was to have her come down and explain this program. The schedule never worked out. And we do have companies and developers that are interested in this program here. We don't want to hold them up because of her schedule. So she asked me to present this tonight. So that's basically what it is they're asking the city to become part of this district so they can administer this incentive program within our municipality. So CPACE, this is basically just a financing program for the development of energy efficient portions of development projects, whether it's a new building or an existing building being refurbished to this. And the way it works, a voluntary assessment and a lien is placed on the property. To cover the cost of that, a lien is assigned to a lender. There are a handful of lenders across the country who service this type of a program. And those funds are extended to the property owner to make those improvements on the property. If you have questions, ask me. I'm not going to promise I'll answer them correctly, but we do have this week. If you have some in-depth questions that we can, Shauna can be available by phone to answer some of these. Basically what this does is through energy savings, the real thing that they're looking at doing is you add some of these things like renewable energy or just more energy efficient aspects to a development project that's eventually going to save them more than what they're investing in it by this lien that's being placed on the property. The other thing that's nice is it's a $0 down program with it's 100% private financing. This isn't a government program, but it's private financing that's, with the goal to increase energy efficiency. For new construction, because energy efficient things often are a lot more expensive than what a traditional lender will offer, then this is a program that can help fill some of the gaps in the financing for these projects. Up here, it just mentioned.
So we don't take any liability on for like what they're doing or anything. We just allow them to come in.
That's exactly right. We
here.
just designate ourselves as a part of the district.
Do you guys
to allow them to
counsel
manage that.
your clients on this at all or not?
I haven't, but I'm trying to understand, is this related then to that tax-deferred long-term investment?
It can be used in conjunction with any other existing program, including that one, including the Opportunity Zone one that's just opened up now. So it's not limited by any other existing programs that are out there. It's just one more tool that a developer or builder can use.
But this is a total third party that comes and does it for the state, right?
It's the state itself that administers the program, but as far as the finance itself, those are third-party financiers that can be involved, and the state connects those dots with the developer. In fact,
So I kind of
skip
thought it
ahead.
looked like a third party that actually takes them through the process and collects a fee is kind of what it looked like.
Right, and that is the Office of Energy Development that's
Okay,
taken
it
that
is
role
a
right
state
now.
office then that's doing that. Okay, that
Correct.
makes me feel better.
Yeah, I think in the notes that you got, they're referred to as OED. That's the Office of Energy Development. They've got a website. She sent that as part of their thing, and that answers some of the questions that you have there. The one thing that I did want to show, let me see where that slide is. Okay. She included three options here on the city's role, because that's what you asked is what's the city's role here. It says the city council passes a resolution, executes participation agreement. CPACE district manages the education, the outreach, and the project development from start to close at no cost to the city. The one thing that they do ask us to do, and specifically my office to do, is to coordinate some time for them to come down here and do education programs, similar to what we've done with the opportunity zones, to get some facilities, to invite shareholders who are interested in this program to attend. And then they'll traditionally do a 2 to 3 day stay here and do that education. So that's the only thing that they're asking for us, is that we facilitate that and that we refer people to their office for any questions that they might have. It's funny, they show 3 options up here. So the first is that I described to you, that we allow them to do that. The other 2 are allowing the community to manage that program. I asked which communities in the state have picked option 2 or 3, and they said none have, and they don't anticipate that any will, just because the cities don't have the time, the resources, and the expertise to do this. The only instances where 2 and 3 might be used is if a city has a very aggressive renewable energy program or some things where they wanted to customize that program, but that hasn't been taken up. So anyway, any other questions?
I don't think so.
Okay. The map here shows those who have got it so far. It's mostly been cities, a few cities: Logan, Moab, Ogden, Orem, Park City, Provo, St. George adopted it a couple of weeks ago, and then a couple of counties that have more unincorporated development are looking at that. But right now, Cedar City makes the most sense for us.
Okay.
All right.
Questions, comments? Put this on the action agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 10, consider bids for the sewer, water, and storm drain utilities on 1600 South, the VA Cemetery Access Road. Yeah, it's you.
Oh,
it's the
okay.
cemetery road.
Sorry. So this last week, we let the bids out for the cemetery road utilities, sewer, water, and storm drain. And the low bidder on the project was John Orton Excavating. It's in your packets there on the third to last page. Their bid was total bid amount, including the ad alternates, was $316,114.85. The ad alternates, as I wrote up in my write-up, was to put in the utilities for the road that goes over to the tank. The city owns the property to the west of that road that could be developed in the future, and could mean some revenue coming in from the city as that property develops. So we put that in as an ad alternate if it's desired to go ahead and improve that frontage on those lots. So the total bid was $316,114.85 from John Orton Excavating.
Did you guys review it or anything? It's significantly less than the other ones. Do we know why, or that always makes you nervous when there's such a difference if they've left something out? Or
well, most often it just depends on how busy the contractors are. If one contractor's not got any projects that are coming up and they want to keep their crews busy, that's probably the heaviest factor in somebody putting in a lower bid. John Orton Excavating's done several jobs for us, and they've done good work, so we have confidence.
Where's the funding coming for this project?
Well, the funding was budgeted in the budgets.
How the general fund?
We sold a parcel of property to the veterans group, so we'll turn around and rebudget that for the road. That's the intent right now. And then there's enterprise fund revenue for the utilities.
Great. I just was wondering how it's being funded.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As part of our agreement, when we sold the property to the VA, our responsibility was the road up.
Yep, I do remember that.
All right. Questions?
Kit, in there where you mentioned in your write-up about future possibility of proposed, the lots, the development of it, is there going to be a problem with water pressure being that close to the tank? Like we experience in areas where the lots are right next to the tank.
You're
I'm just
talking about the
curious.
south tank. Those
Yeah.
lots will be fed off the cross hollow tanks, which is a much higher tank than the tank that's right
That's there. Okay. I was just curious about that for future value.
All right. Any other questions, comments? Good with this on consent? Sorry. All right. Item number 12, consider emergency MOU with Iron County.
So sorry about the clunky title here. This is an emergency preparedness document. And basically what it does is it's an agreement between us and Iron County that says if Cedar City has an emergency that we can't handle, we can call the county. If they have some assets that they can send to us to help us in our time of emergency, they can send them. They're not required to, but they can send them. And then it gives them a mechanism to seek reimbursement from the city for the cost of those assets and personnel. It also says that if Iron County has an emergency that they can't handle, they can ask Cedar City to send some assets over. And if we have them and it's permissive, we may send them. And it also gives us the same opportunity to recover the cost of the personnel and the assets that we've sent to the county in the time of emergency. This was something that was proposed by the county's Office of Emergency Management. And it probably helps us get some FEMA recoupment if there's a natural disaster, to have something similar to this in place. So that's about the extent of the MOU.
Is this a renewal that we're doing, or is this the first time we've ever done it?
I don't know if we've had this in writing before. I know we've shared resources back and forth before, but I don't know if in my recollection, I don't recall having it in writing before.
Okay. I think it's a good thing. I think it's important.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other comments, questions? Good with that going on?
Yeah.
And with that,
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye. Now go ahead.
Designated adjourner.
That's okay.
Carter, have you
Go up and shake
licked your
hands.
wounds?
Yeah, it'll probably go about 8.
Carter, have you got your wounds all licked?
Yeah. Sorry, buddy. You walked into a buzzsaw with that one.
Ask a dumb question. You get a stupid answer.
No.
I didn't have to take the bullet. You did.
Well, I just have no. I mean, I hunt up there, so it's like I've always wondered. I mean, I figured.
Yeah, it's like there's a road right to it. Like,
Are you living over? Scott,
Oh, yeah, but it's just such a, there's such a.
Yeah, I am.
well,
Now I know. I mean,
the taxpayers.
Yeah,
They're
it'll
all
serve other
PZs.
purposes.
I'm going over.
Yeah, no, not between the city, between Nichols and Smith. They used to be partners. They've sued each other. They've tried to come in and make the city, like, let them use that road, like. No, that's all public.
Yeah.
I mean,